is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's nearly all over. We've nearly reached the finishing line of this campaign, and the polls will be open from 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Perhaps you feel inspired, invigorated by this general election campaign. You may well think that politically it's been some of the most exciting few weeks of your lives, or perhaps you've really had enough of it all. But what I'm really keen to try and tease out from you today is, what are the issues? Because we do talk about personalities but is it Brexit still? Is it actually now about security? What are the issues that are going to motivate you to go down to that polling station tomorrow? Or are you so confused by the whole thing, you're wondering whether you're actually going to bother? Now, as the last day of the campaign unfolds, no surprise, all the party leaders are out and about, travelling, crisscrossing the country. The Prime Minister says that she's the only person who could deliver for Britain. And the Labour leader has said, we don't want 5 more years of Tory austerity. It's Labour that will spend the money needed on health and education. The Lib Dems, well, Farage is focusing very, very much, their leader, on Remain constituencies, those that voted Remain heavily in the referendum last year. UKIP says it's the only party that will actually stand up and stop Brexit backsliding. The Greens are saying we should vote with our hearts. And in Scotland, the SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon is warning that a vote for Labour risks handing the keys of number 10 to Mrs May. And respectively, leaders in Wales and Northern Ireland too are out doing their stuff, all of which is exactly what you would expect. But if you think about it, this election was called on April the 18th. It came immediately after the Easter holidays. It surprised a lot of people. I have to say, I wasn't that shocked and surprised, because it seemed to me, given the opinion polls, with the Tories 20 points plus in the lead, here was Mrs May's chance for a big majority. And she set the tone from the start. This was going to be the Brexit election. And she was the one who believed in Britain. She was the one who, in many ways, said a lot of things I said in the last general election, and she wanted a big majority to make sure she could do it. And you know, that's what it was all about to begin with. Is it still? When you vote tomorrow, are you thinking still about Brexit in this so-called Brexit election? Or are your concerns about social care policy, or 2 appalling terrorist attacks within the campaign? Is it now actually onto security, and who would we be the safest under? Let me know at this last minute what your motivations are in terms of policy. And whether perhaps you're very, very confused. Let me know on 0345 60 60 973. You can text me at 84850. You can tweet me on @LBC using the hashtag Farage and LBC. And you can watch the show live on LBC's Facebook page right now. Ian in Yateley, Hampshire, what is going to be uppermost in your mind as you go to vote tomorrow?
Good evening, sir. Upper mind is going to be Brexit within the population. I've got basically I study, I predict human factors. I've got a model that I developed.
Right.
And I study social media, and I'm looking at the psychology of kind of the hive mentality, basically. Brexit will be the defining kind of decision that prompts to the decision. I must say, Nigel, just by the way, I'm not your biggest fan.
Well, that's all right. Ian, it's a free country, mate. You're allowed, you know.
No, but I would buy you a pint if I saw you, because I think you're very charismatic and, really intelligent guy. My mum actually fancies you, which makes my teeth grind.
I have to say, Ian, I do seem to do well with a certain age group, but there we are. So come on, tell me about this model that you've developed. I'm fascinated.
Okay, well, basically, it revolves around analysing how somebody thinks, and I'm looking at cognitive bias, so how our neural networks form up, and once we go into a certain stream of cognitive bias and we have a certain perception of the world, any information that we receive is then discarded, and the information which corresponds with our neural pathwork is absorbed and makes it stronger and stronger. That's why with Brexit...
It all sounds frightfully clever, Ian. Do go on.
Well, it saved my life a few times. I was Royal Engineers, and I developed it for use in minefields. So, so basically I'm looking at cognitive bias, and how I define cognitive bias, once people have slipped into those groups, they're pretty solid. Now, what you've got with this election is you've got two big demographics. You've got the younger generation, the students, who are probably going to be anti-Brexit anyway. And then you've got those who voted Brexit and were on the fence and they kind of regret it. So they're the two demographics that I study on social media.
I tell you what, now, Ian, if you're studying those two groups, then whether your model's brilliant or not, I think you've got a problem, Ian, and I'll tell you why. There are very few people who voted Brexit that now genuinely regret it, but there are a really, really big chunk of those who voted Remain, getting on for half of them, who, whether they've changed their mind or not, now think the right thing is just to get on with it.
Well, that's a very good point, Nigel. I'd like to counter that because I think Theresa May's strong and stable. The way I interpret it, if I can explain it to you, I imagine it like a cast iron bar. So it appears strong, but it's got unstable kind of... it's an unstable solid structure. So you can tap it in the right place and it will just shatter. I think Corbyn is going with Brexit, to say the ones that voted, but he's going to be flexible in his negotiations. If I'm wrong on this, Nigel, I will buy you a pint.
No, I will take you up on it. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
so Ian, before we get to having our bet, which I'm very happy to have with you, by the way, because it sounds like it could be quite fun. I might learn something too. What does your model tell you then is going to happen tomorrow?
It will be there'll be a huge bombshell dropped politically. You will see those who have been undecided before, so they've voted for Brexit. They've had nearly a year now to listen to why it was good, why it was bad.
Yeah.
They will jump ship, and they will vote for Labour.
Right.
And then you've got the younger generation. There's like a student union kind of revolution going on, which is very exciting. They will jump to Labour. Now, the other thing as well...
Ian, you've had lots of time. You've had lots of time, Ian. You've got 10 seconds. Give me your prediction.
OK, Labour landslide. If I'm wrong, I'll buy you a pint. If you're right, then... sorry.
I tell you what, if you're right, Ian, I'll take your pint and I'll give you 10 pints if it's a Labour landslide. All right? OK, Ian, thank you. A very interesting analysis from Ian, but I think based on a misconception. He thinks that a lot of you out there who voted Brexit are now regretting it and now somehow want to water it down by voting for a party that is either reluctant or perhaps even against Brexit happening. That's my view. Please ring up and tell me I'm wrong, but I think there is actually quite a considerable body of polling evidence that backs up that view. Adrian in Bournemouth, what's going to motivate you tomorrow morning?
Evening, Nigel.
Evening.
The boy Farage, the only man in history to get 100% of his manifesto done.
Thank you. And, well, not yet, I think, is the answer to that. But anyway...
No, not quite.
Anyway, come on, what's driving you?
Well, I'm probably a personification of the actual campaigns, I think. I'm so mixed up, I don't really know where I'm going, but it's going to be immigration.
Immigration, yeah. Which actually, Adrian, given that it's been sort of the top issue in British politics for several years, has really, if we're honest about it, hardly been discussed in this campaign.
Well, I'll tell you why that's been. That's because there's two reasons. One, the whole world is sick of the different terms that have been used for Brexit. We're sick of hard, soft, left. We're just sick of the word Brexit.
Yep.
I can promise that for nothing. Secondly, I think I've counted correctly. When I think we're up to about 600 questions now where Theresa May has ended the sentence with best deal for Britain. Now, I don't know, and nobody knows what the best deal for Britain is. And because she's never told us, she's got nothing to measure up to without. So she can tell us whatever she thinks is the best deal for Britain, and none of us have got anything that we can come back with and say, but that's not what you said.
No, but Adrian, if it's immigration that is dominating your thought, how are you going to vote tomorrow? Well, I completely understand that there is no reason why it shouldn't be. Where does that put your vote tomorrow morning?
Well, this is the weird thing. I voted Brexit, right?
Yep.
The reason I voted Brexit was not to stop people coming here. It was so that we could allow the right people to come here. I really, really, really want people that have gone across the Mediterranean with their kids in their arms and a bin lid to be able to come here. I really want that to happen, but I don't want the lunatics here. So the only people that are currently singing my tune are the Green Party, and that's scaring me a little bit, if I'm honest.
But don't the Green Party believe in free? I mean, I heard Caroline Lucas the other day. She is a champion for free movement, Adrian. So if that's what you believe in, folks, that's great, and they're completely open and honest about that. But if you've got free movement, it's quite difficult, isn't it, to weed out, as you call them, the lunatics?
The other evening when I heard her on the debate, she did say that she wanted to allow needy people in the country. She stopped short of saying that she'd stop the lunatics coming in, but I assumed that they wouldn't let the lunatics come in. I don't know. I've got no idea. What I do know is that I'll give you my prediction for what's going to happen this week.
Go on.
I called Trump, I called Brexit, I called everything.
Yeah, go on.
We are definitely 100% going to have a hung parliament on Friday morning.
OK, Adrian, another bold prediction. I thank you for your call. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
You and I paid the thick end of £1 billion to ensure that disgraced former banker Fred the Shred Goodwin did not appear in court. Royal Bank of Scotland fighting a lengthy legal action with shareholders. So what might he have said? Well, somebody probably knows is Ian Fraser. He's a financial journalist. He wrote Shredded.
The worst thing that he was doing was basically having a reign of terror where people were scared to really stand up to him and challenge him over some of the bad decisions that he was making. The worst of which obviously was to buy the Dutch bank ABN AMRO for nearly $100 billion just as the markets were imploding.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, now open in Aberdeen.
This June, if you test drive the Qashqai, Duke or X-Trail, Nissan will give you an extra £650 off. That's up to a massive £2,900 on a Qashqai at only 4.99% APR representative. Yes, Nissan will give you money off, just for test driving our best-selling crossover range. I know it sounds unlikely, but that's what it says here in this script. I haven't read it wrong. I'm a properly trained actor. I've done Shakespeare and telly and hundreds of voiceovers. Search Nissan offers if you don't believe me. Nissan. Innovation that excites. Nissan Finance. 4.99% APR representative. Offer excludes Visiograde. Subject to status over 18s. Order and register before the 2nd of July from participating dealers only. T's and C's at nissan.co.uk.
Download LBC's Britain Decides podcast, updated daily as Sheila Fogarty and myself, Ian Dale, take time out and dissect the latest developments in the general election.
Will it be a walk in the park back to Downing Street for the Conservatives? Could a wave of support from the left help push Jeremy Corbyn onto an election win? Will the Liberal Democrats see the greatest recovery in living memory?
And what will the fallout be for the SNP and UKIP?
Britain Decides. Follow the general election from every angle on LBC.
Listen and subscribe to LBC Britain Decides
on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
My thing, my abs. They're big on Instagram. Well, they were until I dropped a dumbbell on my phone. Anyway, I need a replacement. 12 megapixel camera for maximum muscle definition. But my budget is lower than my body fat ratio. So, you know what? It's got to be refurb.
Russell's thing. It's clearly a refurbished smartphone from eBay. That's as good as new with 12-month seller warranty. Buy refurbished tech on eBay and save up to 50% versus new. eBay. Find your thing.
Divorce can be expensive. It affects your finances, assets, home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. It's probably one of the toughest times you'll ever go through. Cordell & Cordell understands these issues and helps men maximise their roles in their children's lives. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
If you won on Lotto, what would you get your mum? I think the best thing for my mum would be to have her family around her all the time. So I'd probably use some modern technology to try and duplicate all those kids so she can have us around her all the time. Because that's what's most important to her, is being with us. And clone us all, yeah. I don't think the world's ready for that, actually.
Lotto. Who wins if you win? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Yes, you did hear right. There's more money off the RRP on selected new Nissan crossovers if you test drive in June at all 14 Glyn Hopkin Nissan dealerships. Search Glyn Hopkin Nissan.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
With less than 12 hours to go, what are the issues that will motivate you, turn you on, inspire you to go out and vote tomorrow? Or perhaps you've just had enough of the whole shooting match. I want to know, this was set up as the Brexit election. Is that still top of your list, or are you, like I think quite a lot of people, now rather confused, as many, many other issues have come in? Brexit and security. It has to be May. Corbyn will not Brexit us, says Dean. Brexit, Brexit, Brexit for me, says Rose on Twitter. My biggest concern is terrorism, says Theresa on Twitter. Tomorrow I'll be voting based on securing Brexit. I only hope Mrs May doesn't betray reluctant voters like me. And one here that's interesting. Nigel, I'm voting on the national debt. Tomorrow is about whether we stand up and repay our debts or force our kids to repay it. Josh in Bristol. Josh, I have to say, in that case, I don't know. Honestly, who would you vote for? We haven't even debated it. We had those big debates that we've seen over the course of this campaign, and the issue of the national debt has barely troubled the scorer. Something I find extraordinary. But you know what, Josh? The same thing happened in 2015. I confronted Cameron face-to-face on the ITV debate, and I mentioned the fact that his government had doubled the national debt in 5 years, and here he was, telling the audience how prudent they'd been. Answer, I got none. And none of the other parties even challenged it. So, Josh, if that's what you're voting on, interesting, but it just has not been part of this campaign. Kaleem in Brent, what is going to motivate you tomorrow?
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
I'm very well, yeah. And you? What do you think?
I'm very well, thanks. Nigel, it's very, very easy for me. I'm voting Labour 100%.
Right.
And the reason is to preserve the NHS. Under the Tories, we've seen nothing but further privatisation of the NHS, starting with Andrew Lansley, who instituted the Health and Social Care Act that opened up the NHS to private companies. And we've seen this continue with Jeremy Hunt, and the NHS is being eroded. The NHS is a national treasure in this country. If we want to save it, we have to vote for a party that will ensure its survival.
Well,
I can guarantee you 100%, if the Tories come into power this Friday, we will see further erosion of the NHS, and it will become a two-tier service.
Well, Kaleem, I'm going to pick you up a little bit on that, because the great Tony Blair, that wonderful Labour Prime Minister who won 3 elections for Labour, it was he, of course, that brought in the private finance initiatives for the building of new hospitals, something out of which private companies and consortia have made very large amounts of money. In fact, Tony Blair privatised a lot more of the National Health Service than the Tories have since 2010. Now, I know this election is about looking forwards, not backwards, but don't you think, Kaleem, as a hardened Labour voter that you are, there is a certain sense of irony that it was Labour that privatised quite a lot of it?
Nigel, I think what's important for your listeners to appreciate is that the only party that has put this into law in the Health and Social Care Act is the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
It's in law now that CCGs, clinical commissioning groups, open up all services to essentially to private companies. There is no distinguishing between an NHS provider and a provider that is private. Therefore, by the fact that it's in law, we will see this continue, and we will lead to a system whereby more and more services will be taken over by private companies.
All right, but fine, Kaleem. Okay, listen, I'm hearing you loud and clear, but do you equally accept my point that it was the Labour Party that privatised more of the National Health Service than the Tories have done to date?
No, because they didn't put it into law.
No, forget it. I'm talking about what actually happened, and if Tony Blair privatised about 5% of the National Health Service, the Tories have privatised less than 2% of the National Health Service. Going ahead, it could be different. Kaleem, I understand your passion on this issue, your belief in the National Health Service, your fear about privatisation. I just put that point in because I was trying to bring in a bit of balance. Honestly, listeners, I was. Kaleem, thank you. Chris in Sloane Square, what is the issue that really now dominates your thinking for tomorrow?
Hi, Nigel. It is security. Security and Brexit are just about level, but it's security.
Yep.
I mean, the interviews that Diane Abbott have been doing are dreadful. And the fact is that if she was our Home Secretary today and these circumstances which have taken place, I don't think she'd be able to cope. And she'd be running around like a headless chicken. And old Jeremy Corbyn talks about 10,000 police. Where
Diane Abbott,
10,000 come from? Because
Diane Abbott, does Chris has had a difficult few days, and she pulled out of Woman's Hour yesterday morning. She pulled out of an Evening Standard debate last night, and she did appear to have some considerable difficulty on Sky News being interviewed a couple of days back. The party leader, Jeremy Corbyn, has told us today that Diane Abbott is ill, and for that reason is standing aside for a little bit. So, it may be, Chris, if she's ill, that she would not become the Home Secretary on Friday and somebody else would.
Okay, so are we talking about her current replacement? Never heard of her.
Well,
so, but going back to, I'm going to vote Conservative because Amber Rudd and the Conservatives, I think, are the team to do it.
Now, Chris,
I
that's
vote for the less of the three evils.
Chris, that's interesting that you use the word team, because according to tonight's Evening Standard, edited, of course, by the ever-helpful George Osborne, Osborne is suggesting in the Standard tonight that Amber Rudd and Theresa May are actually poles apart on a whole range of political issues. If that's true, it's not much of a team, is it?
Well, no, but we don't know about that. I mean, he could just be going in there to sort of stirring things up. But Amber Rudd is coming
He's very good at that.
Very, very strong.
Yeah.
With a lot of charisma.
Okay.
And then you feel confident in them. And it's just like with Brexit. I voted Brexit because that was in the Conservative mandate. And from my point of view, I voted Conservative. Sort it out. I voted you because you are the people to sort out Brexit. And, the single market, I knew exactly that we were coming out of the single market, all about immigration, controlled immigration, not stopping everybody, controlled immigration, the world market.
You've got, Chris, you're clear. And on security, why do you think the Conservatives are better on security?
Well, apparently London is, am I right thinking that they've lost 18,000 policemen over the last 5-7 years?
20,000 policemen have gone nationally over the course, since 2010, basically, yes.
Sorry, it's 18,000, yeah. So where's this 10,000 policemen, where's the number come from? Why 10,000? Why not back to 15 or something? And at the end of the day, who's going to pay for it? Okay, they keep saying corporation tax.
Yeah,
corporation tax being used for tuition fees?
Well, Chris, maybe the crisis we face is so great that actually even me, who's been harping on, although no one's been listening, about the national debt, perhaps actually money doesn't matter when it comes to our safety. Chris, I thank you. And, Chris made his point. He was very worried about Diane Abbott. But interesting, I get a tweet here. Well, I was voting Labour for Diane Abbott, but now she's being replaced. I'm rethinking, says Anthony. So, you see, strong emotions on both sides of that. Steve in Watford, what dominates your thoughts ahead of the polls opening in 11 and a half hours' time?
Hi, Hi, Nigel. I just wanted to say to start with, I'm a huge supporter of you, huge supporter of UKIP. I've supported UKIP for many years, but unfortunately I think UKIP has done their job, and so I won't be voting for them this time.
Have they got the wrong policies, Steve? I'm asking the question, what are the policies that will dominate your thinking, and do you feel that UKIP have got the wrong policies now?
No, not the wrong policies. I think the policy that needs to... I'm voting. Well, I'm actually not going to vote. I am going to vote, but I'm going to spoil my ballot, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Brexit was the issue. I was very keen that Theresa May called the snap election. I thought she was playing a very clever card, trying increase your majority and go to Europe with a very strong hand, a very strong mandate from the people of the UK, and say to everybody, we want a hard Brexit, and she will have the mandate to do that. Then she pulls the rug under the carpet for all of us by putting through all these policies that not in a million years most people would vote for. The dementia tax, one of them. And she's tried to pull a fast one on us. So for that reason alone, I'm not voting Conservative.
So, Steve, she effectively lost you, you're saying, with the manifesto launch?
Yes, absolutely. I thought she played a very, very clever hand. I thought she had done exactly the right thing. Wait till you're high in the polls, and then call a snap election, get a strong mandate behind you, go to Europe and say, this is what UK want. And I think she would have done very well. And then, because she thinks she's going to get a big majority, she starts putting through all the policies that she knows would have been difficult to put through, but thinking that she's going to get a strong majority, she starts putting through things that I can't vote for. Not in a million years would I vote for that.
Steve, do you think by spoiling a paper you'll feel better about yourself when you walk out of that primary school or whatever it is?
I'll feel worse if I don't go and vote at all, because I've always been somebody who is banged on to all my friends. You know, people died to get people to vote.
No, Steve, that is, I agree with that, and in fact, I'll talk a bit more about that at the end of the show tonight. Steve, you're going to go and vote. Looks like a spoiled paper. You're somebody that Theresa lost. In a moment, I'm going to make my election prediction. I was always told, in politics, it is mad to make predictions, but at every election, I do. I don't know what it says about me. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Moira Alderson.
A 36-year-old Frenchman's been confirmed as one of the victims of the London Bridge terror attack. The number of people killed has risen to 8 after a body was found in the River Thames. Another man's been arrested in connection with the Manchester Arena bombing last month. Police say the 20-year-old is the 12th suspect now being held in custody. The final general election campaign rallies are being held this evening. Party leaders are travelling across the country to try to get any undecided voters to back them ahead of the polls opening tomorrow morning. LBC weather, a bright and dry evening in the north and east of the country, but rain and wind in the south-west will soon spread across the country with a low of 14 degrees.
LBC Travel, good evening. I'm Andy Lake. Starting off in Surrey then, the M25 is still slow clockwise between junction 13 for the A30 at Staines and 14 for Heathrow. It was blocked earlier on to recover a lorry which broke down. All lanes are back open now though. Also issues on the M25 in Kent. It's down to just 2 lanes from 4 anti-clockwise between 3 for the Swanley interchange and 2 for the A2 after a collision, making it look very slow on the approach. In North London, the A1 in Lower Holloway is closed just north of Holloway Road Tube Station. That's for an ongoing police investigation, causing long delays from Manor House and Angel tube stations. In the West Midlands, the M5 is slow northbound between 2 for Birmingham and 1 for West Bromwich. The inside lane there closed to deal with a breakdown. And in South Yorkshire, the M1 has 2 lanes closed southbound between junction 35 for Rotherham and 34 for Meadowhall, making it look pretty slow as it bottlenecks. For more real-time traffic updates, go to lbc.co.uk.
This is LBC.
New drama on BTTV.
It's showtime, folks.
Enjoy the UK network premiere of AMC's Better Call Saul, the critically acclaimed spin-off to Breaking Bad.
You will atone.
BTTV. Big entertainment, tiny prices.
You'll need BT broadband and a fast enough line. Terms apply.
Everyone deserves to smile with confidence. But poor-fitting dentures, damaged or missing teeth can mean that smiling is the last thing you feel like doing. At Dental Art Implant Clinics, our team of implant surgeons can give you the smile you deserve for a price you can afford. Book your free, no-obligation consultation today and get a full diagnosis, X-ray, CT scan and treatment plan recommendation without paying a penny. Text the word FREE to 60300 to find out more and secure your booking.
The FCA has introduced a deadline to permanently end claims for missold PPI. When this passes, you could miss out. And with billions of pounds still to be repaid, some of that money could be yours. So call now and speak to Claim for Refunds. We have helped thousands win millions since 2009, and we could help you too. All we need is the name of your bank. So if you've had any loan or credit card, let Claim for Refunds find out for free if you had PPI. And if you have, you can claim yourself, or we can handle it for you. It's up to you. And if we don't win your money back, you don't pay a penny, guaranteed. You could be owed thousands and not even know you have PPI. Call 0800 180 8180 or text PPI to 88882.
Oh, the garden's an absolute mess. It's my turn to have the cross-stitch crew round for tea and Battenberg. I'll have to get a landscape gardener in and a wildlife expert. It's a jungle out there. We could be eaten alive by those deadly flutterbugs. Oh, relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Marvellous local tradespeople who've been tried, tested and reviewed. All specialists in their areas, from landscape gardening to pest control. Oh, visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com. Watch Better Call Saul, 27th of June on BTTV, where you'll find quality drama, kids shows and movies. To never miss a moment, record all your favourite shows with the BTTV box. BTTV, big entertainment, tiny prices.
You'll need BT broadband and a fast enough line. Recording functionality available with selected BT TV packs. Terms apply.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
Now, I'm talking about what is going to motivate you when you go to vote tomorrow. What policy stands head and shoulders for you above the others? And I've had a mixture of reactions, but I've also had some predictions coming through. I've had a prediction of a Labour landslide. I've had a prediction of a hung Parliament. So I'm now, as I said before the break, going to give my prediction, having been told that it's something you should never do in this game. But hey, in for a penny, in for a pound. What I'm about to say is not an attempt in any way to influence your vote. What I'm about to say is not even me saying that this is what I want to happen, but this is what I believe. And yes, I do understand that well over 1 million people have signed up to the register, and I do understand that a lot of those appear to be students who are very taken with Jeremy Corbyn. You can't get away from that. Big crowds of people turning up to look at him, very active, particularly on social media. My feeling is that where Corbyn is doing well is in areas where Labour is already going to win. And I think that the Conservative vote will surprise people. And my prediction is a Conservative victory by 65 seats. I think a relatively comfortable win for Mrs May, but nothing like the landslide that we were looking at 3 to 4 weeks ago, where, if you remember, some models were saying she might get as big a majority as Tony Blair got back in 1997. So I'm going to call a Tory win by 65 seats. Predictions, of course, I could get it wrong completely, and you please ring me and tell me I've misread this. There's probably some of you now absolutely fuming, dialing 0345 6060 973. I'm not trying to influence you in any way at all. I'm not saying it's the outcome that I want. It's just my view. Ali in Stratford, what are the issues that are dominating your thinking tomorrow?
Hi, Farage. How are you? I'm
okay.
Nigel, sorry. Sorry, Nigel. Yes.
Either or's okay.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, before I begin, I wanted to say that I was an undecided voter.
Yeah.
And I never voted in the past as well. And so the person that's got my attention is Mr. Corbyn, 100%. And the issue that's important for me is security.
Okay.
And the reason why, obviously, what the terrible events that happened in the last 3 months, all the way from the Woolwich and in what's happened in Manchester, and what the public need to
You mean
remember.
You mean Westminster? Yeah. What says Westminster, Manchester, London Bridge? Yeah.
Yes. And what people need to remember is all of this has happened under the watch of the Conservative government. So May going up and down the country talking about security, it doesn't wash with me. Because if something was going to happen, then these maniacs, there would have something would have happened with them, and it hasn't happened under her watch.
Well, Ali, let's. Okay, Jeremy Corbyn has caught your eye, so let's assume that what you want comes true. And you wake up Friday morning and Corbyn has become Prime Minister. What is it you think that he will do to stop this happening that makes you want to vote for him?
I think the two things that one is that he's said that he's going to increase the police. I've seen what that's done on the street myself because I work with a lot of young people, and the police cuts and what it's meant on the street. I've seen it for myself. And the second thing is he's going to rethink some of the policies that hasn't worked on possibly prevent and engaging with the people like the Muslim community, etc. He hasn't done that. If it is a Muslim community issue, then the government needs to go out and talk to them, and the Conservatives haven't done that. So I think those are the two things that Corbyn has basically, yeah.
Ali, no, you've articulated that very strongly. His critics, of course, the Daily Mail in particular, would say that he's been far too close in the past to Hamas, Hezbollah and the IRA, all groups that have done some awful things. And how could you trust somebody who himself had been too close to bad people?
Well, for me, I mean, I don't know about Daily Mail and their credibility. I mean, let the public decide for that for themselves.
Okay.
From what I know is that May has constantly lied over and over again. So she's more of a someone who I can't trust. And the times that I have met Mr. Corbyn, etc., he's always come with someone genuine, someone that seems like
Ali, one second here. So you've met Mr. Corbyn, yeah?
Yes, this was recently in a rally, yes.
OK. Are you a Labour Party member, Ali?
No.
You're not? OK, so you've met him, you're impressed by him, more police on the streets, a different approach to the Muslim community. Thank you, Ali. You've made your point and made it very, very strongly. Jerry, in Derby, what is the issue dominating your thoughts when you wake up tomorrow morning?
Brexit.
Brexit.
And I'm not a member of any party of any description. The left wing have hijacked the Labour Party, if we remember back 7 weeks ago. That's why Jeremy Corbyn wasn't popular within his own Labour Party. And we have got 11 days. In 11 days' time, we are going to start negotiating to get out of the European Common Market. Or, in 11 days' time, we're going to get an announcement from Jeremy Corbyn to tell the world that we're going to stop doing this till we get a new referendum.
But hang on, Jerry. If Tim Farron storms to victory tomorrow, then that would be the case. But Jeremy Corbyn, unless you think he's a liar, has made it pretty clear that we are going to Brexit. It's just that he believes he can have a negotiation that will get us a different kind of trade deal to the one that he says May will get. So Corbyn, Jerry, 2-3 months ago, I kept asking callers, can someone please tell me where the hell the Labour Party stands on this issue? And whilst there is confusion over the single market, real confusion over the customs union, Corbyn, to be fair, has actually said that he does want Brexit. Now, is that...
Yeah. And if he needs to go into a coalition with the Liberal Democrats, then he'll change his mind and say, well, for me to run this country, I can only do that with the Liberal Democrats, and the deal is
or the SNP.
Want a referendum.
Or the SNP.
Yes, exactly. They're all going to want a new referendum.
So, Jerry, you're going to vote Conservative. You trust Mrs May's integrity on this issue more than Jeremy Corbyn's. What if the second prediction I got tonight is right, and 2 polling companies, actually, are suggesting that it could be a hung parliament? What if the only way for Mrs May to form a government is to do what Call Me Dave did back in 2010 and to have a coalition with the Liberal Democrats? What would Mrs May do then, in your opinion?
Well, what she should do is go back to the country and say, I need a mandate for us to get out of Europe. So vote for me or don't vote for me.
Oh, no, not another election, Jerry, surely.
No, what we had this election for was Brexit. We didn't have it for any other reason. In 3-4 years' time, they can have another election. If we don't like how the government are running the country in the new Brexit world that we're living in, we can have another election and vote them out, can't we? But at the moment, we want a Brexit. But
if the Conservatives are the biggest party but don't have a majority, who, in your view, should they do a coalition with?
Nobody.
And what if that means that actually Jeremy Corbyn is able to put together a majority coalition, because he can put together a coalition with the SNP, with the Liberal Democrats and others? What then?
Yeah, because then we'll be out of... We'll still be back in Europe. Jeremy Corbyn... there's the only thing I think that Jeremy Corbyn has said, and he basically said exactly the same as what your mate in Europe said. Juncker, is it, or whatever? Yep. He said, you're not going to leave this club and still have all the benefits of it. You're not going to be a single member, you're not going to get the single market. You're not having access to our single market if you're not in our club.
Right.
End of story.
So basically, Mrs. May is the right person, and she mustn't form a coalition with anybody or water down her Brexit policy. That's what you're saying, Jerry, you're voting on, yeah?
Yeah. Can I just say one thing about young people voting as well?
Yep.
If we don't get rid of the debt, you're going to have it. You're going to have it for the rest of your lives, but it'll be bigger.
So, Jerry, who's going to get rid of the debt?
The Conservatives will get rid of the debt.
So, let me just get this straight. They took over the leadership of the country in 2010, and the national debt was 650 billion, and it's now 1.65 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's not been going very well, really, Jerry, has it?
No.
So is it all going to be different now?
But do you think that a Labour coalition, whatever party, is going to not dish out the Smarties to the people who don't work again?
If they dished out the Smarties, they might put up the national debt, perhaps in that scenario you paint, even more quickly. But you don't honestly think, do you really, that the Conservative Party are going to get rid of the annual deficit?
Well, unless we do, we can't continue as a country.
Well, Jerry, I have to say, I have very little confidence in that happening, because they predicted it would be back to neutral by 2014-15. They then extended that to 2018-19. They're now telling us it'll be 2025 before the books are balanced. But if any of you think I'm wrong, please call me and let me know. Right now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Time is running out as the final day of election campaigning draws to a close. So who do you want to see in number 10 and why?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Man, that Hypnos bed is comfortable. Time to get up, work to do. Shower, tick. Shave, tick. Dressed, next question. Time for all-you-can-eat brekkie with the fellas. Bacon, sausages and more bacon. Probably even some beans. Today is a big day. Because you are scaffolders. Whatever your story, this is a great place to start. Premier Inn. Premier You.
Breakfast prices and options may vary. Exclude certain locations.
If you still haven't gotten around to finding out if you ever had PPI, then it's probably time you did. Because even though there's still time to claim before the PPI deadline, time is the one thing that will eventually run out. All you have to do is text the word EASY to 60777, and the claims guys will conduct a free search to discover if you ever had PPI. You can then claim the money yourself or let the claims guys do it for you. It's your choice. Isn't it time you texted EASY to 60777?
The claims guys. We've got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the trade go.
At Selco Builders Warehouse, we've got real deals on a wide range of trade-quality building products. In June, we've got cement mixer hire for only £14 ex-VAT for 7 days, insurance included. Now that's a real deal. We've got even more deals and thousands of products in stock at the new Selco Builders Warehouse, Tuscombe Trade Park, Camberley.
We've got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the trade go.
At Honda, we've put a lot of our best thinking into the Jazz. So when it scored over 9 out of 10 on review for quality, practicality and features, we took it as a challenge. How to improve on what we think is the best small car money can buy? How about making it the best small car that slightly less money can buy? Until June 30th, you can own the Jazz for £199 a month with a £199 deposit and 4 years 0% APR. If you give that idea full marks, visit honda.co.uk/jazz199 for details. Terms and conditions apply. Final payment £4,403.07.
1 in 3 of us will have some form of dementia in old age. The Alzheimer's Show at Olympia on June the 9th and 10th is dedicated to helping those caring for or affected by dementia. Meet leading professionals, explore options for care and discover the latest information, products and services. For tickets, visit alzheimersshow.co.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
What are the issues informing your decision tomorrow about how to vote? Roger says on Facebook, I agree with Steve's analysis, but I don't see the point in spoiling your ballot paper. Steve said he believed in democracy and he believed that spoiling a paper was a valid thing to do. And the amazing thing was in the second round of the French presidential elections, over 4 million French people went to the polling booths and spoiled their papers. Quite extraordinary. I'm hearing NHS is coming back more and more. The NHS is the most important issue in this country, and only Jeremy Corbyn will support it, says Mary. But, on the other hand, we want Brexit, and only Mrs May is going to deliver, says Gloria from Reading. And Laura says, and this is in fact being voiced by 1 or 2 people, I'm reluctantly voting Tory, as they are the most competent and professional to deal with Brexit. I wonder what Nikki in Ongar is going to think about tomorrow morning when she gets up and decides to go to vote.
I'm going to think about Brexit.
Yes.
I cannot wait. Yes, it's Brexit that's the most important, and after that, security.
So
and only Theresa can deliver.
Ah, right. So it's not going to be Tim Farron then?
Definitely not.
Right, I was teasing. Okay. I heard you say what you said. Right, so Theresa will deliver, yeah?
Yes, she will deliver, and we'll get an overall majority of 22.
22, right. Oh, predictions coming in. Right, OK, yeah. Nikki, a prediction of 22 for the Conservatives, and Theresa will deliver. You were a Brexit voter last year, Nikki, yeah?
I was definitely a Brexit voter, and I thank you very much for making it possible. Without you, it would never have happened.
Very sweet of you. And you're convinced, then, that Remainer May has now made a genuine Damascene conversion?
Yes, I don't think she is convinced that we're doing the right thing, but I do think that she has decided that she's the one to get what we want. And I think that I think she'll do it. I think she'll do it. She'll probably pay more money than you and I would want to pay, but she will get Brexit and she'll get us out of the single market.
Well, one thing for certain, Nikki, if she wins, is that, actually, whoever wins, we'll be talking about this with gusto, probably from next Monday onwards, as sort of round 1, as it were, is going to happen 11 days after this election. Nikki, thank you. That was perfectly clear. Matt in Reading, what's the dominant issue for you?
For me, it's the NHS.
Yep.
I mean, it's lots of issues, but the NHS is quite close to my heart at the moment.
Yep.
I've had some recent health scares and I had an ultrasound diagnosed with fatty liver disease. And they told me that because my blood test results came back below a certain threshold, there was no way that I could be referred on to a specialist through the NHS because of cuts and all of this. It wasn't considered a priority enough. So as a disabled person, I've scrimped and saved all the pennies I've got, and bearing in mind I don't drink and I don't, I try and keep myself to myself. And I'm having to pay to see a private liver specialist because otherwise I wouldn't be seen. And that's because of the cuts. And when you look at the Mailer review...
Matt, can we just be clear about one thing? there are no cuts. Spending on the health service has gone up, under Labour governments and Conservative governments. There are no cuts. There's just a much bigger population trying to use that share of the cake.
Oh, come on, Nigel, that's very disingenuous, and you know it.
Are you actually suggesting to me, Matt, that there have actually been cuts in what is spent on the National Health Service?
In real terms, across the whole country, yes. And certainly, and when you look at the Naylor Review, which is a very dull read, but there are some rather terrifying passages in it. And Theresa May stood up on the Marr show last week, I think it was, and said that they're fully behind the Naylor Review. And the biggest part of that concerns me is this business of every £1 raised by selling off assets of the NHS, the Treasury will give the hospital £2. That has far-reaching consequences, allowing, through a legal mechanism, a government-backed, taxpayer-funded mechanism, asset stripping of the NHS by a massive scale.
Rather like the private finance initiatives, yeah?
The private finance initiatives were a Blair concept.
And they were wrong, weren't they, Matt?
I think they were wrong, yes.
Okay,
but Jeremy Corbyn has already stated he's going to row back on those, and he's much more to the left than Blair ever. Blair was a Tory in all but name, really.
I mean, Matt, look, Jeremy Corbyn may put up expenditure on the NHS more than the Conservatives, but the Conservatives have not cut spending on the National Health Service. What may have been cut is spending per patient, because the population has risen hugely over the last few years, yeah?
Really amount to the same thing in the end, though?
Well,
what do you think about it?
Well, perhaps in a way it does, and maybe this argument, Matt, actually goes through education and goes through all of our public services. Maybe we actually have a real problem in this country that our population is rising by about 500,000 a year. I mean, it is a truly extraordinary figure. Nobody ever predicted that, or at least nobody in the big parties predicted that this would happen. But Matt, I get it. You're for the NHS. You see Jeremy Corbyn as being absolutely the right person for you. Simon in Cambridge, what is the big issue for you?
The big issue for me, Nigel, good evening, is certainly Brexit and the economy.
Brexit. Now, you're in Cambridge, of course, which was a very strong Remain area. It's been very interesting that the BBC, all their big debates, they've gone to places like Cambridge and Bristol and had very, very pro-Remain audiences, in my opinion. So are you a strong Remainer from Cambridge, Simon?
No, I'm a strong leaver.
Oh, right,
Very
okay,
strong lever.
Fine.
I spent 12 years living on the continent and pretty much understood that it's a bit of a stitch-up. So, I believe it's very clearly Brexit. I think the idea of leaving Jeremy Corbyn to say we'll do a deal, whatever the price, with Juncker and Tusk will just lead this country down the path of ruin. They will hold out until we break and say, actually, we'll have another referendum, and do you know what? We'll stay in. So you can't let Corbyn do it.
And you see Theresa May's record as Home Secretary as being a good one in terms of making promises and delivering, yeah?
I think it's very difficult to say any politician has got a great record in terms of promises.
Yeah.
I think the key thing, though, is that I think in the cold light today, people won't allow the Labour Party to bankrupt this country again, other than the young, who probably haven't experienced it. And I think she'll end up with a 70-seat majority. I'm 5 more than you.
Right, OK.
And, that's good.
Super. Thank you, Simon. And my last call this evening is Howard in Hastings. Howard, good evening. What's the dominant issue?
Oh, hello, Nigel. It's really good to speak to you. It's good. Yes, after the Brexit referendum, it's very, very important, and I do believe that what we need for the next 5 years is a strong nation state to stand up against corporate success and malfeasance. I think it's the only thing which can do that. I do not trust that Theresa May will deliver that at all. In fact, I think we're about to vote effectively, collectively, for Hillary Clinton in this country. I think we've been sold down the river. I think
Hillary Clinton? You're comparing Mrs. May with Hillary Clinton? Wow.
Yes, absolutely. I think the I think Corbyn comes from a political tradition which invented the whole idea of Euroscepticism and the right kind of Euroscepticism, and I think he will get us out of the EU properly. I think Theresa May will sell us down the river, and I think we're all about to walk into an absolute... I think we're all being conned, and I think we're all about to collectively make a big, big mistake if we return Theresa May with a 70-seat majority. I think the country will be tearing itself apart. I think it would be like a dystopian Los Angeles in 5 years' time if that happens, and I think all sorts of nasty things will happen as well.
Howard, it's very interesting. So what you're really saying is, despite the public positions, actually, in his heart, you see Corbyn as a leaver, and in her heart, you see May as a Remainer. Is that what you're saying, Howard?
Absolutely. I think Corbyn will do the job properly. I think Theresa May will sell us down the river. I think Corbyn will calmly...
But Howard, would Corbyn's very, very pro-Remain colleagues allow him to do that?
I don't think his very pro-Remain colleagues will be much of an issue for much longer. I think they will gradually be whittled away. I mean, first of all, the first thing that happens is he gets returned with a majority. If he gets returned, or even if he gets elected PM, or even if he doesn't, but significantly increases the Labour strength, it destroys the narrative that rump of the Labour Party that's been there since the Blair years has been trying to say is the direction that party needs to go. It will drastically change the direction of the Labour Party, and it will align it back more with, let's say, the Foot Ben tradition. And I think it will get considered.
Howard, absolutely fascinating, thank you. And, well, whatever you decide to do tomorrow, whether you're voting, spoiling, not voting, whatever you're deciding to do, do have a good day. You've heard a variety of predictions as to what's going to happen on the show this evening, including, of course, from me, because I love getting myself potentially into trouble and being made to look stupid. So you'll find out whether that's right or not. I'm going to be here tomorrow at midnight, and I'll be here with Ian and Sheila as some of the results start to roll in. But I'm also going to be here at 7 o'clock tomorrow, yes, because we have a special edition of the Nigel Farage Show commemorating the 73rd anniversary of the Battle of Normandy. I was there yesterday, attending ceremonies, interviewing veterans, powerful and moving, and you could argue they fought so that we could be a democratic nation. Coming up at 10, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. Coming up at 9...
But if you think about it, this election was called on April the 18th. It came immediately after the Easter holidays. It surprised a lot of people. I have to say, I wasn't that shocked and surprised, because it seemed to me, given the opinion polls, with the Tories 20 points plus in the lead, here was Mrs May's chance for a big majority. And she set the tone from the start. This was going to be the Brexit election. And she was the one who believed in Britain. She was the one who, in many ways, said a lot of things I said in the last general election, and she wanted a big majority to make sure she could do it. And you know, that's what it was all about to begin with. Is it still? When you vote tomorrow, are you thinking still about Brexit in this so-called Brexit election? Or are your concerns about social care policy? Or two appalling terrorist attacks within the campaign? Is it now actually onto security, and who would we be the safest under? Let me know at this last minute what your motivations are in terms of policy. And whether perhaps you're very, very confused. Let me know on 0345 60 973. You can text me at 84850. You can tweet me on @LBC using the hashtag Farage and LBC. And you can watch the show live on LBC's Facebook page right now. Ian, in Yateley, Hampshire, what is going to be uppermost in your mind as you go to vote tomorrow?
Good evening, sir. Upper mind is going to be Brexit within the population. I've got basically I study, I predict human factors. I've got a model that I developed.
Right.
And I study social media, and I'm looking at the psychology of kind of the hive mentality, basically. Brexit will be the defining kind of decision that prompts to the decision. I must say, Nigel, just by the way, I'm not your biggest fan.
Well, that's all right. Ian, it's a free country, mate. You're allowed, you know.
Theresa May's strong and stable. The way I interpret it, if I can explain it to you, I imagine it like a cast iron bar. So it appears strong, but it's got unstable kind of... it's an unstable, solid structure. So you can tap it in the right place and it will just shatter. I think Corbyn is going with Brexit, to say the ones that voted, but he's going to be flexible in his negotiations. If I'm wrong on this, Nigel, I will buy you a pint.
No, I will take you up on it. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
so Ian, before we get to having our bet, which I'm very happy to have with you, by the way, because it sounds like it could be quite fun. I might learn something too. What does your model tell you then is going to happen tomorrow?
It will be there'll be a huge bombshell dropped politically. You will see those who have been undecided before, so they've voted for Brexit. They've had nearly a year now to listen to why it was good, why it was bad.
Yeah.
They will jump ship, and they will vote for Labour.
Right.
And then you've got the younger generation. There's like a student union kind of revolution going on, which is very exciting. They will jump to Labour. Now, the other thing as well...
Ian, you've had lots of time. You've had lots of time, Ian. You've got 10 seconds. Give me your prediction.
OK, Labour landslide. If I'm wrong, I'll buy you a pint. If you're right, then... sorry.
I tell you what, if you're right, Ian, I'll take your pint and I'll give you 10 pints if it's a Labour landslide. All right? OK, Ian, thank you. A very interesting analysis from Ian, but I think based on a misconception. He thinks that a lot of you out there who voted Brexit are now regretting it and now somehow want to water it down by voting for a party that is either reluctant or perhaps even against Brexit happening. That's my view. Please ring up and tell me I'm wrong, but I think there is actually quite a considerable body of polling.
No, but I would buy you a pint if I saw you, because I think you're very charismatic and really intelligent guy. My mum actually fancies you, which makes my teeth grind.
I have to say, Ian, I do seem to do well with a certain age group, but there we are. So come on, tell me about this model that you've developed. I'm fascinated.
Okay, well, basically, it revolves around analysing how somebody thinks, and I'm looking at cognitive bias, so how our neural networks form up. And once we go into a certain stream of cognitive bias and we have a certain perception of the world, any information that we receive is then discarded, and the information which corresponds with our neural pathwork is absorbed and makes it stronger and stronger. That's why with Brexit...
It all sounds frightfully clever, Ian. Do go on.
Well, it saved my life a few times. I was Royal Engineers, and I developed it for use in minefields. So basically I'm looking at cognitive bias, and how I define cognitive bias. Once people have slipped into those groups, they're pretty solid. Now, what you've got with this election is you've got two big demographics. You've got the younger generation, the students, who are probably going to be anti-Brexit anyway, and then you've got those who voted Brexit and were on the fence and they kind of regret it. So they're the two demographics that I study on social media.
I tell you what, now, Ian, if you're studying those two groups, then whether your model's brilliant or not, I think you've got a problem, Ian, and I'll tell you why. There are very few people who voted Brexit that now genuinely regret it, but there are a really, really big chunk of those who voted Remain, getting on for half of them, who, whether they've changed their mind or not, now think the right thing is just to get on with it.
Well, that's a very good point, Nigel. I'd like to counter that because I think...
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's nearly all over. We've nearly reached the finishing line of this campaign, and the polls will be open from 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Perhaps you feel inspired, invigorated by this general election campaign. You may well think that politically it's been some of the most exciting few weeks of your lives, or perhaps you've really had enough of it all. But what I'm really keen to try and tease out from you today is, what are the issues? Because we do talk about personalities and but is it Brexit still? Is it actually now about security? What are the issues that are going to motivate you to go down to that polling station tomorrow? Or are you so confused by the whole thing, you're wondering whether you're actually going to bother? Now, as the last day of the campaign unfolds, no surprise, all the party leaders are out and about, travelling, crisscrossing the country. The Prime Minister says that she's the only person who could deliver for Britain. And the Labour leader has said we don't want 5 more years of Tory austerity. It's Labour that will spend the money needed on health and education. The Lib Dems, well, Farage is focusing very, very much, their leader, on Remain constituencies, those that voted Remain heavily in the referendum last year. UKIP says it's the only party that will actually stand up and stop Brexit backsliding. The Greens are saying we should vote with our hearts. And in Scotland, the SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon is warning that a vote for Labour risks handing the keys of number 10 to Mrs May. And, respectively, leaders in Wales and Northern Ireland too are out doing their stuff, all of which is exactly what you would expect. Evidence that backs up that view. Adrian in Bournemouth, what's going to motivate you tomorrow morning?
Evening, Nigel.
Evening.
The boy Farage, the only man in history to get 100% of his manifesto done.
Thank you. And, well, not yet, I think, is the answer to that. But anyway...
No, not quite.
Anyway, come on, what's driving you?
Well, I'm probably a personification of the actual campaigns, I think. I'm so mixed up, I don't really know where I'm going, but it's going to be immigration.
Immigration, yeah. Which actually, Adrian, given that it's been sort of the top issue in British politics for several years, has really, if we're honest about it, hardly been discussed in this campaign.
Well, I'll tell you why that's been. That's because there's 2 reasons. One, the whole world is sick of the different terms that have been used for Brexit. We're sick of hard, soft, left. We're just sick of the word Brexit.
Yep.
I can promise that for nothing. Secondly, I think I've counted correctly. I think we're up to about 600 questions now where Theresa May has ended the sentence with best deal for Britain. Now, I don't know, and nobody knows what the best deal for Britain is. And because she's never told us, she's got nothing to measure up to without. So she can tell us whatever she thinks is the best deal for Britain, and none of us have got anything that we can come back with and say, but that's not what you said.
No, but Adrian, if it's immigration that is dominating your thought, how are you going to vote tomorrow? Well, I completely understand that there is no reason why it shouldn't be. Where does that put your vote tomorrow morning?
Well, this is the weird thing. I voted Brexit, right?
Yep.
The reason I voted Brexit was not to stop people coming here. It was so that we could allow the right people to come here. I really, really, really want people that have gone across the Mediterranean with their kids in their arms and a bin lid to be able to come here. I really want that to happen, but I don't want the lunatics here. So the only people that are currently